Question is the House do now adjourn, and I call the member for Hotham.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and really pleased to have an opportunity to speak to the Parliament this afternoon about really the plight of young people across Australia, and particularly those who I'm lucky to represent in my electorate of Hotham. Mr Speaker, there's absolutely no doubt that young people have been copying it from every direction during this pandemic. I've been making a lot of efforts recently to speak to young people in my electorate and beyond about what's going on for them, and I wanted to talk today about some of the highlights that have come out of those conversations. The most important piece of context, I think, here, Speaker, is that young people were actually not doing so great before the pandemic hit us. If we take housing, for example, young people in Australia on low incomes are about half as likely to own their own home as they were in the 1980s. The labour market is changing in really powerful ways that mean that the jobs that you and I probably use to kind of get a foothold in the workforce may not even exist anymore. We know that university is becoming incredibly expensive, and that's been, of course, exacerbated greatly by the decisions the government has made recently about increasing university fees. The mental health of young people is an emerging and crucial issue that this nation has got to confront. And additionally, Deputy Speaker, we're not doing anything about climate change. And every young person I talk to just about raises this issue that we're living in an economy. We come into the Parliament every day. We don't make the decisions that need to be made about fixing the climate, and yet this is a problem that they are going to be left with. Now, Speaker, the overarching point here is that young people today are tackling challenges that you and me and everyone else who's a bit older in the Parliament actually just didn't have to deal with when they were younger, and we do need to give them a bit of extra care and attention. Speaker, in order to provide good representation to the young people I represent, I recently ran a survey across thousands of young people who live in my electorate, and I wanted to speak to the Parliament to share some of the results. Speaker, it's probably not going to be a surprise to you that of the young people that I surveyed, by far the biggest anxiety facing them at the moment is to do with work and to do with income. We know that young people were more likely to be working in jobs that were affected by the COVID shutdowns. They're much more likely to be in casual work and hence to have missed out on JobKeeper. And about 40% of the young people I polled said that this was by far the most important issue. One of the respondents to the survey said to me, COVID-19 showed how insecure and unstable my job really is. The survey also told me that this is not a short-term concern, that a lot of the young people I represent today are not just worried about their current income, but about what the COVID recession, the Morrison recession, will mean for their long-term economic future. About 60% of respondents cited career prospects and income as a big concern. One said to me, the lack of job security and career opportunities available to graduates made me feel very stressed and uncertain. Another said, I'm finding it really frustrating just not being able to properly prepare for the future. Speaker, mental health was another issue that came out very strongly. One respondent said to me, I was stood down and brought back to work within 24 hours. The lack of job security and career opportunities made me feel really stressed. Another said, I'm constantly full of dread and anxiety that I will have to go to work and bring the virus home one day and infect my family. Speaker, one of the things I really learned from speaking with young people who responded to this survey is that I think a lot of the criticism that's been directed at young people during the COVID pandemic has been incredibly unfair. The young people that I talk to are incredibly anxious about the virus. They're anxious about the older people in their lives, and they're doing everything they can to try to make sure that they don't spread this virus through their own activities. But mental health is a major issue for young people. We've got a lot of young people whose lives have effectively been put on hold in profound and dramatic ways. And as a consequence, on average, the young people who participated in my survey rated their mental health as 2.5 out of 5. Deputy Speaker, we got into politics to try to make things better for the next generation. And I really want us all to remember that as we think about how we confront what comes out of the COVID-19 period. The next generation is not some kind of academic concept. They're actually alive and they're here today. They're in their teens and their 20s and in their early 30s, and they're really doing it tough out there. And it's going to be very important for us rebuilding out of COVID that we listen to what they're saying. And if I can just leave the Parliament with one message, something that comes out of all the conversations that I have with young people is that they don't feel sufficiently involved in the deliberations that we have in this chamber. So if I can leave MPs with any questions, it's please get out there, talk to the young people that you're representing, and let's have a better conversation in this Parliament about how we can support them coming out of the pandemic.